Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Expert Solutions webinar today. We will start promptly at the top of the hour. So we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining the 4th episode of Expert Solutions, where we focus on a specific problem that we solve for financial institutions. My name is Ryan Pacchini. I'm the host of this series. I'm the head of go-to-market strategy here at Total Expert. The topic of our discussion today is ramp up growth by reinforcing referral partnerships. A record for this recording of this webinar will be sent to all attendees within 72 hours of this webinar. If you have questions, please place them in the chat. We will do our absolute best to get to them throughout the course of the webinar. If we do not, we will ensure to follow up with you directly within 72 hours. With that, let's get started. I'm thrilled to be joined by the one and only Julian Hebron and my esteemed colleague and one of the best solution engineers in the industry, Seth Hakey. Seth, would you like to say a quick introduction?
Yeah, hello everyone. Really excited to be on the series here. I've been with Total Expert for over 5 years, so I've had a lot of conversations with IMBs, banks, credit unions on how Total Expert can help and provide value. So excited to walk you through a little bit of the product at the end of the call.
Thank you, Seth. Julian, who needs no introduction, let's do one anyway. Julian, over to you for a quick intro, please.
Hey, yeah, Ryan, thank you so much. And Seth, great to see you as well. And always happy to join you and the team. And yeah, I'm excited today because what we're going to go through is as what the basis point tries to bring to all the stuff that we participate in is just some substance. I know that everyone knows what's going on in the market, but we're going to give some very, very specific details up to the minute, including with the inflation print this morning, et cetera. So we're going to kind of bring all the market context into this discussion about, you know, how to go about getting business this year with referral partners. And I'm particularly intrigued by ending it with Seth's segment on you know, showing some of the products. So with Seth's permission, they've given me permission to kind of chime in on some of the things that I think are important around what you all are building at this time. So very excited to get started.
Thank you both for being here with us today. So without further ado, let's jump into our agenda. We're going to start with a review of market and the competitive landscape. We're going to define referral partner relationships, measure success with referral partners, and then we're going to have a 5-minute demo to show how the TE platform can help you strengthen those relationships. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Julian, I'm going to start with you. Constant inflation, recession headlines wear on us about the state of the market. I think our listeners and viewers today care about 4 key things that it's important that we level set on first: inflation, a recession, potential of a recession, rates, and housing and inventory. So can you talk through each of those key those key topics to make sure we kind of level set before we go into the details of how you strengthen referral partner relationships?
For sure. And just so everyone knows, what we're going to do today is you know, I'll call Ryan, if it's okay, I'll call at certain times for show a couple slides, but then there's also going to be some discussion. Certain things we'll talk through, certain things I'll show, but just so everyone knows, We got plenty of visuals. That's what we like to bring to this. So with that said, let me just, before we go to any slides, I'll just say this. There's going to be another slide that's coming shortly where I'll do the recession bit. But the short of it is this. We have to steady the ship for our consumers. We have to steady the ship without question for our referral partners. And I think from where lenders and banks sit in all of this, we're the ones that have to know this stuff cold. And yet even we are subject to the deluge that we all experience all day, every day, social media, regular media. It's just constant. And frankly, our referral partners, our consumers, hey, I saw this. Even today, there will be misinformation about the CPI print. So I'm going to peg, Ryan, your question. Like I said, I'll do recession in a minute, but we're going to do inflation, rates, and housing all at once. So if you could actually go to our first slide, I want to just do the end game, okay? So what I like to do is talk about the projections. These are Goldman Sachs projections for the headline CPI inflation. So we came out with inflation this morning at 6.5% down. This is the headline inflation, okay? The Fed does look at this very, very closely, but it's called quote unquote headline inflation because it's the one that all the consumers see. It's the one all your realtors and all your other referral partners see. And it's the one that they're like, panicking about for the last year, okay? So we do a little bit of jokiness with it because when we put it on the charts like this, it does kind of look like inflation, you know, flipping us the bird this past, you know, couple of years. So, but jokes aside, the Fed has to have rates at 2% inflation, okay? I'm gonna go into the granular bit in just one sec on a different read that they care more about, but the headline matters. Headline this morning came out at 6.5%, 9% was the peak in June, okay? So we're doing very well there. You can see that Goldman's calling for 3.1% by the end of the year. That's pretty damn good. You don't have to get all the way to 2% for mortgage rates to react well. Now, below that on this chart, you can see where Fannie Mae, I'm going to do today Fannie and MBA rates, but I'm going to do Fannie Mae rates because they are going more aggressive in terms of rates staying higher for longer per the Fed mandate than MBA is. So I'm using their higher projections here because I think that reconciles well with an inflation projection, right? So if they think that, I don't think rates would be quite, I mean, rates are already lower than what Fannie is showing here on the bottom of the 2023 bar of this chart at 6.3. Rates are already lower than that today, okay? That's great news. However, I am also showing their home sales projections because with higher rates comes a home sales projection that is lower than what Fannie says. We're going to do, than MBA says. We're going to do MBA in a minute. But with that said, I think that 5 million home sales and 6-ish% rates is still a pretty good market. We've seen that. I'm going to cover that more. But if we can flip to the next slide, we'll show you what the Fed really cares about, which is the core PCE inflation. This is how they make their policy decisions. And this is where Goldman thinks that we'll be by the end of the year here at 2.9%. So again, 2 is the mark. But if you're in the 2s, it's mostly mission accomplished. And I think this is very, very encouraging, despite, again, inflation having flipped us all the bird for the last couple of years. But with that said, I'm gonna pause there because that is answering 3 of the questions that you asked around inflation, rates, and what we think happens to the housing market with roughly 5 million units and roughly 6% rates.
Yeah, so Julian, appreciate that macro perspective. Let's ground it a little bit. What does a referral partner need from a lender in a market like this, given all the things you just talked through?
In a word, intelligence, this kind of intelligence, and ongoing and up to the second, and not, I saw this thing on social or I saw this thing on CNN or CNBC. That stuff is semi-useful, but it is not professional advisory useful. And there is a difference. I'll give you an example. Can we go to the next slide? This one is just, you know, the last several decades, right, of rate changes. Each bar is 1 year. How much rates changed in 1 year, either up or down, okay? So the headlines and all of us, sometimes us, but especially referral partners are like, yeah, but it's the worst since the 70s and I remember and all this nonsense. Does not matter. Why? Because look at any time where we have had the spikes, and yes, this year is the biggest spike. This one, just by the way, this picture was taken 4 days after the rate peak. I'm going to show the rate peak in a minute. But anyway, look what happens after every other spike. You have these deep, deep declines in rates. So it's not about looking what's happening today. It's about looking what's happening going forward. So Ryan, the answer to your question is the headlines are backward looking. They always have been. They always will be. And when we're dealing with markets, it was a seller's market. Rates were high. Inflation was high. But now it's time to be the advisor. And what if housing is not the biggest, if housing is the biggest investment everybody has, smart investors all have to be forward looking. And the forward looking stuff is not this gigantic spike that we're looking at on the last bar here. It's looking at what came after spikes like this every time in history and getting ready and getting our borrowers ready.
Yeah, Julian, I think you've given us some great context on the intelligence that that a loan officer can deliver to a referral partner. Just for context, knowing that we're in a purchase market, how often are top realtors or even realtors who are doing a significant amount of volume being solicited or courted? What does it look like in their day to day, so a loan officer can have perspective when they talk to them?
If I should have, if I was gonna show a slide for this, which I'm not, it would be a meme, and the meme would basically just be like, it's all the time. The answer is all the time, like, because we know that loan officers, we're gonna look at some of the data as to, just when you look at the picture of the slowdown, like it's been slow. And so loan officers have been reaching out. A lot of loan officers that play refi only as a primary sport are trying to play this new sport called purchase. And maybe I always commend anyone that's just going to be like, hey, I'm in sales, I'm going to shift gears, and not necessarily have a plan and just start pitching. But yeah, realtors get it all the time, especially financials. We're going to talk about some of the other partners in a minute, but I'll stick with realtors. It's all the time, every day, and it's like meme level ridiculous about how much they're getting pitched. So you have to stand out, which I know we're going to talk through a little bit.
Yeah, so we've talked about intelligence. We've talked about understanding the importance of what's going on with our referral partners. You've touched on some of the tangible things. What are the intangible things that a referral partner wants from a lender?
I think it's a good question. I'll do quick tangibles and intangibles and I'm gonna tease this now and I'll go in deeply into it later. But the tangibles are just straight up responsiveness. Like what is in again, I'm gonna do this in a realtor context. We'll do it more with other partners in the next segment. But I like to say that realtors are loyal as long as you have the best price and the best products, right? You can make them loyal. Everyone talks about loyalty, but let's be real. You got to have product, price, response time is the tangible stuff that you just got to have. The intangible is, I know this sounds a little squishy, but it's the chemistry, and you have to make that tangible. Because when going to the previous question, they're getting deluged and you break through, great. Because realtors are salespeople too. They'll respond to a good pitch, but then there has to be some chemistry because they will only be loyal to product and price and response time. And let's be real too, no loan officer controls all those things at any given time. This Wells Fargo move that happened this week in the market, I wrote a big piece about that, about some very nuanced things that deeply impact certain loan officers in certain markets, especially high price markets. In short, if you're in a high price market, a move like that combined with a move that US Bank made in a similar capacity to cut off certain jumbo mortgages to the non-bank community, those people who had those realtors are like hurting right now, big time. So that's what I mean. And those realtors that they have that are quote unquote loyal are not going to be loyal for long unless they can fix that. So if you don't have that, what else do you have? You better have a relationship, and you better have some chemistry, and you better like being around these people. And I hate to say it, but you better be, people do have more time right now. You better be like having fun with them at lunch and like, getting to know them so that they don't just bail on you, because that does happen when product and price shifts like it is right now.
Yeah, Julian, one of the things that you touched on that I want to go back to is a realtor is a salesperson and they're open to a pitch. And us both being salespeople in different phases of our career, know that selling is a team sport. Can you talk about what the best producers are doing in terms of leveraging their team to spark that initial conversation, whether it's leveraging leadership relationships, marketing resources? How are they getting that initial meeting if that realtor hasn't responded to them in the past?
It's a good question, because one of the examples I like to use here, there's a number of great coaching programs out there, excuse me, that a lot of loan officers use. And one of them is called the core, and the core says like, hey, you have a certain component of your team that not only is running production for you so that you can sell, but they're also sort of, to your point, Ryan, starting to get some of those initial leads going. Hey, calling 20 realtors and trying to book some meetings. That works in less, this market's very unforgiving, and in an unforgiving market, that doesn't work quite as well, because they want to hear from who they're dealing with, A, and B, what's happening right now is that even high producing teams have had to make some meaningful adjustments. So those types of roles, assistant roles, are more about helping to run the production than they are about getting meetings right now. And mostly even the heavy hitting loan officers are tending to book those appointments on their own. However, yes, going to your marketing resources questions, and also in some cases, if you're going after whole real estate offices, using the leadership from within your firm to go and do those big pitches. That's where even leadership has time, and leadership has every motivation to go with loan officers that are like, hey man, we could take actually potentially this whole real estate office down in terms of, a partnership. They want us to come present. And that's where you can tap in your executive management as a loan officer and say, hey, let's go do this together. And that stuff works. That is stuff that everybody forgot over the last almost 10 years. But in the years coming out of 2008, that's exactly how it went down. And that is what's happening now, where there's smart execs that are going, area managers, regional managers, branch managers that are going with their loan officers on these pitches. I will say, for the credibility of me talking to the loan officers on this call, I get that sometimes certain managers might not know the trenches the way you know them, and you don't want to jointly pitch with them, but don't be closed to that idea. You'd be surprised how some management weight would resonate with the real estate community going and pitching whole offices. As long as you're if you've got the ground game down, great, but use your managers, tag them in, and have them bring credibility to your firm and your product set and your price and your stability and all these things that realtors do care about.
Great, Julian. I think you gave the audience some great insight in terms of how to engage with a primary channel, a group of folks who is known to grow their business. I'd like to change gears here a little bit, moving into our next section, which is what makes a great referral partner. And I want to start with where we've talked about realtors. Where is their untapped opportunity? What are you seeing some of the most innovative lenders do in terms of expanding the concept of a referral partner, and what are they doing outside of the realtor community?
I'll give a personal anecdote here. I actually came into the mortgage business as a producer from the money management business, and I never started with realtors. I actually started with financial advisors. And so I just make a couple quick notes maybe on financial advisors and a couple notes on builders. On financial advisors, this might sound obvious to some, but it might be fresh to others who are like, I would love to do that, but how and who? Let's start with the who. The who is, it has to be independent RIAs. For those who don't, I think everyone knows, but registered investment advisors. But the independent RIAs are a lot like mortgage banks and mortgage brokers. They're the ones, they're good firms, they're known firms, but they are firms that are not so big that they're part of major institutions that have other product sets, including mortgage, right? So when you're thinking about the big institutions, yes, you can go after those, and a lot of times those financial advisors are happy to have a third party uh, lender outside of their world, but generally they are incentivized to refer over to the mortgage folks within their umbrellas. So the independent RIAs is the secret sauce there. The how is you got to, again, similar to what the realtor community knows, you better be able to operate on their level with respect to market knowledge and what's going on, not only educating them on what you know that they don't about the housing market. I find that RIAs, they all follow the housing market, but they don't know it like we know it. They don't know it like you know it. And you have to demonstrate that, and you have to talk about things like equity. They also always have a little bit of a bias towards, do I really want my person to, take out 300 grand that they have invested with me to put on a down payment on a home? There's some cognitive bias there, but for the most part, that has changed over the years because they are fee only, meaning they get paid on assets under management. So on the one hand, their assets under management go down, they get paid less. However, it is not, if you will, like it used to be, like broker oriented, where they get paid by the transaction. So they're not trying to churn anybody. They will make less, but they have a fiduciary duty as a fee only advisor to give their clients the best advice, even if that advice means, yeah, go allocate 300 grand to housing, and I know that that comes out of my invested assets and therefore my income. That's very wonky, but it's important. You have to know what they care about and how they get paid, and you have to know those nuances if you're talking to those folks.
That's great. Any other sources that you feel of untapped opportunity, whether it's attorneys, builders? I mean, those are a few that have come up in our discussion
Yeah.
prior. Do you want to touch on those now?
I'll
Or
do
you
a
want to hold
builder
that for
segment
later?
really quick, just
Okay.
because it's the same drill. Y'all know this, but for the most part, builder business can be very corporatized, meaning either builders have their own in-house lenders or they have relationships. But I promise you this, just like with realtors, it's a little bit of a different pitch. And you want to talk, Ryan, about tagging in your management teams. If they don't have their own in-house lender, they'll be like, oh, we've got relationships. They will always listen to a great pitch, and you have to be resilient. You have to beat down their door. And sometimes loan officer only can't win those deals. You got to go pitch corporate teams and do decks in their offices and run slides with them on their screens in their own offices and win them over. And that's where you do need to tag in your management teams and win those deals. And you can. And there are plenty of them in every local community, local builders that word sounds quaint, but most local builders are very, very sophisticated, and they are always open to folks that can come at their level of sophistication when it comes to condos, things like pre-sale, all the technicals that run along with builder business that you have to have, longer rate locks, all these things. You have to have the game down. The last note there I will give is that you also have to be prepared to give up both weekend days for up to a year on every given project. That's just the way that game goes, even more so than realtors. Like, you have to go and be like, we will staff the new projects when they open with you. And A, that'll win the business, and B, it'll win you the deals when that time comes. But that's how that game is played. It's labor intensive.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, Julian, you gave us some great insight into the untapped opportunities too, in particular. I think we should maybe answer the question on the slide, which is before we go any further, how do you define a great referral partner? And we talked about the essentially the segments that you can go
Yep.
after, but whether it's a builder, whether it's financial advisor or an agent,
Yeah.
how do you, or a realtor, how do you define what makes a great referral partner?
Yeah, I'll zip through a couple of, I'll answer the first one and then maybe what we can do, because again, like we can show some data and answer the question at the same time. So maybe we'll do it in, if you're okay with it, I can do it in three quick segments, because I can answer that first question simply, but then show some data around it, is like what makes it, how do you define a great referral partner? To me, it's one that's a student of the market, because I just don't, I think that's a great litmus test. If certain partners are just like in this mindset of like a lender partner is a commodity, I don't, I know y'all need business, but I don't know that you want that kind of business, because they just don't treat you well and they're not loyal and all these other things. Again, if you combine the chemistry part with the fact that we know that they're going to be more loyal to product and price than the individual, you can win them over long term. But for folks that aren't students of the market and that just don't care and they're only about the transaction, who cares about them? So I think that you have to have people that want to know some stuff. So I'll share a couple quick notes on that. And then as it pertains to, if it's okay, the same thing, we talked a little bit about uh, realtors and how to break through to them, and a little bit about financial advisors and how to break through to them. But I could put some data behind that if you want me to zip through a few slides.
Sure, that'd be great. I
Okay.
think our
All
audience
right.
would appreciate that. So I'll move on to the next one.
Sure. So student of the market stuff, how many, I wish sometimes I like doing, in a room, like by a show of hands, like I would be very curious how many people think that their realtors truly understand that from the peak on October 20th to present, rates are 1.25% lower. And what headlines say that? No headlines say that. So if realtors are students of headlines more than they are students of the market, until such time as they meet somebody like you that tells them the real info and they're like, oh my God, Ryan, the loan officer, I have to call again. And yes, I'm going to send him a deal because he told me this thing that I didn't even know. This slide alone, if you start sharing information like this with realtors, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go start calling all their prospect lists and they're going to send you a deal. That's what they're going to do. Next slide, please. This one I think is really, really important too, because again, it just outweighs everything. This is where we incorporate some recessions. The little gray bars at the bottom line under those years for when those recessions were. The NBER is the one who calls recessions since 1979. They typically call recessions 11 months after the fact. You could argue we might already be in one, but we're not going to know until after the fact, hence why you don't have one for anywhere near 22 or 23 yet. But the point here is not even so much that as it is you have 29 years of mortgage production in America on this slide. And you can see that the average is 2.006. I think it was 2.003 when I did it last. That's why I just say 2.00 here, trillion per year. So I'm glad that 20 and 21 are further in the rearview mirror now, because we spent most of 22 wringing our hands about what the market should be. The market, as we can see from a chart like this, like those are anomalies. But the market itself this year and next year are totally normal. So this is the year that you just get into the zone with your referral partners and you convince them with data like this is a normal market. And frankly, the spring buying season this year for folks that can engage their referral partners in the correct way is going to be the year that you're going to be like, okay, this does feel normal to me, and I built a purchase book. So if we do I'll do the next three of like, how do I break through to realtors? How do you do that? You got to show them that you know what they know. Okay, so I'll just do 3 buyers market signals, which is as much for you all listening as it is a answer to Ryan's question about how do you break through to realtor referral partners? You got to show them that you know what they know, and maybe even sometimes more. So this one's really interesting because this just, like we said, this doesn't make a lot of headlines, but if you look at these these charts are really notable. The spikes in seller giving a concession, seller giving a concession and a price drop, sellers selling below asking price, etc. Right? This means that by the time this actually makes headlines, it'll be too late for buyers, right? Because rates are coming down as sellers are getting more nervous. So if you show realtors that you know what's up with stuff like this, then you go after the clients together. Next one. Similar story here on bidding wars. Um, this one is really notable. We were tracking towards 70% of deals having bidding wars during these crazy pandemic housing boom years. Now we are, as you can see, rapidly reverting to a much more normal market where deals are just not as competitive, and that means that sellers are willing to deal. And then next slide. This is overt in terms of buyers having control. You see this kind of spike in buyers backing out of deals. One of the basis points, most traffic stories in the second half of 22 was when this data first started spiking, and I wrote a story about it and explained. I won't go into the weeds right now, but the short of it is, why can I cancel a deal? Because I can go to the next one, because now there's more sellers that need to make deals. Before you got into a deal, you had to go no contingency. You couldn't even break the contract if you did see something you didn't like during an inspection, or maybe you even waived the inspection. Now buyers have control. That is stuff that if you show realtors you know how to write contracts that close and that get accepted as part of your pre-approval process, they will work with you. I promise you that. Next 3 are actually about breaking through to financial advisors. They can apply to realtors, but with financial advisors, they are very macro-y, right? So we know what the data are. The data say that 41% was the home price peak during the pandemic. Sorry, the 41% was how much home prices appreciated. So, with the headlines of like, oh, it's going to come down 20%, including a lot of RIAs talk about that. It's like, okay, but let's remember that we were up 41. Even if you came down 10 to 20, you still have room to breathe. And let me show you the next one, which actually shows that. So we saw that tappable equity, which still leaves 20% equity left over in the system, actually peaked at 11.5 trillion. It came down a trillion. All the headlines were tappable equity is down a trillion. But this is the full perspective on it. And those headlines perturb me to no end, because that's not the story. The story is we still have 4.31 trillion in tappable equity that was gained. Total equity is much, much more than that, because remember, tappable still leaves 20% equity in somebody's home. But even this number, this number is still material. And if you go to the next slide, and this is the type of stuff that breaks through to financial advisors, 4.51 trillion, the burgundy dot all the way on the right, is how much non-housing debt, student loan, car loan, et cetera, we have in America. And then if you would just flip back to the previous slide for one sec. You had a pop-up that just came up on your screen. Sorry about that. So 4.31 in tappable equity right now is approximately the same amount as all non-housing debt in America in total, right? And these are the kinds of things that just show financial advisors like, hey, I know what's up. Send me a deal. I'll take good care of your customers, and I will operate on the level that you operate at in terms of advice. And that's what financial advisors expect from loan officers on a partner basis.
Julian, thank you so much for the insight across all those different opportunities. I think I want to make sure that our viewers have a chance to see how we can help with some of the opportunities that you walk through to grow their business. As I'm transitioning to Seth to share his screen, would love to get a sense of, let's talk about metrics. You know, what if you were to put hard metrics across all the referral partners that you talked about? What are those hard metrics that signify you have a great referral partner?
Sorry, that was for me or
That's
Seth.
for you. That's for you,
Okay.
Julian, as Seth preps his demo here. So I'm going to
Got
transition
it,
it
got it.
to
Okay,
Seth.
thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just wanted to make
sure.
sure, but yeah, happy to field that. Close deals, straight up. It's I'll rattle off a couple of stats because what realtors look at is, okay, there's going to be about 5.8 million home sales this year, new and existing. 90% of those are existing home sales. Okay. But what we like to look at is how many units we all are going to do, and we're projecting that we're going to do about 4 million, 3.9 specifically, purchase mortgages this year. So that's our opportunity set. If you look at the loan officer population in the country right now, that translates to about 11 purchases per loan officer for the year. That doesn't sound great. It's one a month. It's not bad, but everyone on this call knows that you can get more than your fair share when you, Ryan, I know you and I know why you asked that question. And you're asking that question because it is all about like results. And realtors care nothing more than results. And if you're good, you will get way more than one a month out of your realtor alone, let alone RIA, builder, et cetera, kind of stuff, right? So
Yeah. No, that's great, Julian. Seth, I feel like Julian he's had some tough questions. He's had some moderate questions. I want to try to throw one more in for
sure.
our viewers, which is, as producers, we're they're creatures. All salespeople want to create urgency, right?
Yep.
And want things to happen now versus 3 months from now. Setting everyone's expectations across the different categories of referral partners, from the time that you start to implement a prospecting strategy till you start to yield fruit from those relationships. What is the expectation in terms of that timeline? Is it
This
4
is,
months? Is it
yeah.
6 months? Is it 3 years? Can you level set for our audience on that?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I'll tie it to the last one because here's the thing. I know I just said close deals, okay? But we all know that in a market that is 74% purchase this year, it's 74% purchase. That's a stark number, right? Yes, closed deals matter, but you know what else? I prospected with Ryan and Seth, my two top realtors that I'm going after right now, and I got one pre-approval referral from each of them. I don't know when those are going to close, but I know for damn sure that I'm going to pre-approve those people today and get back to both of those guys. And so that is the middle metric. So if you will, the bearing of fruit is the closed deals, and you don't know because it takes the customers that you just referred me, each of you, however long it takes for them to shop. But as long as I get back to you and I'm like, these guys are like ready to close. So as soon as you're ready, you can write offers and I will give you the letter. That's going to be enough for you to stick with me and maybe send you another and another and another. So there is a nuance there. The first question, it's the closed deals is the metric. The second question is, all you want out of a referral partner strategy is referrals that you can get pre-approved, right? So that's the
Absolutely.
nuanced answer to the question.
Thank you, Julian. Appreciate the insight that you provided in our chat. I'm going to pass it to Seth. As always in the Expert Solutions series, we want to give you a taste of how we can help with this specific challenge. So Seth, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Julian. Yeah, I'm going to try to pack a lot in a couple minutes, 5 to 7 minutes here. But to Julian and Ryan's point, really what we want to show you is how Total Expert can provide you a way and a strategy to help drive those activities that really make a difference with those partners. And what I'm going to walk you through is in 3 areas. It's access to marketing tools and support to help those collaborations. It's delivering really powerful insights to those partners that's impactful to their business. And it's creating those efficiencies and improving the experience across their partners. And Total Expert, there's a big reason we can help it. It's because we can open up a lot of our capabilities to these partners. You can actually invite co-marketing partners to the platform, and Total Expert provides a lot of content and strategy on how to engage and get those partners to sign up. But once they're signed up, what we want to do is create this strategy and give you tools to help drive those activities across your organization. And because we have integrations, things like integrations to the MLS, we can update your users when there are those opportunities. Hey, your partner has a new listing, and let's start to drive that activity that we know is impactful and provides, a collaborative approach. So things like having marketing at your fingertips, the ability to create things like single property websites that can be shared on social media, that you can co-brand and really align your branding with these partners so that you can build your exposure and again, kind of build this touch point across all of these opportunities. And then even things across different channels. So there's digital opportunities, there's opportunities to create co-branded print material. We know, getting more information, having these types of materials at open houses and events is really impactful. So MLS integrated flyers that can have infographics around school information and neighborhoods, just more and more data. And really that's what Total Expert is. It's a hub of all this information that you can start to act on and use in marketing. Even things like rate and product information. So now I can pull in through integrations with pricing engines quickly and easily. Some other really powerful tools, and we've seen more and more of our customers come back to this. I think during the refi boom, print was an afterthought. Nobody was doing really a lot of print marketing, but now there's this refocus of these partnerships and there's opportunity with print. So whether it's a distributed mailing list or leveraging an integration that we have with every door direct mail, now I can come in, target a location or a group of individuals, and even start to see things like, single family homes, apartments. This could be for a just sold, a just listed, even, other types of communications across these neighborhoods. You want to be that trusted advisor in an area, and exposure is a big part of that. And all of these marketing tools are really powerful, but what Total Expert has really built the platform around is compliance as well, because you have to have these guardrails and this oversight to make these options available. So you can even see right here, we're splitting the costs with these partners. And how we do that is through different tools in the system. We actually allow your marketing teams and compliance teams to, down to the pixel, determine what these cost splits look like. So everything from creation, deployment, mailing, payment, it's all tracked and managed in one system, which is a huge advantage for your teams.
And if I may, I just have to underline this for everybody, because this part is, I remember when I first saw this when I was on the buy side, on the lender side, and actually this was one of the things that caused us to buy the Total Expert product at the enterprise level for the whole sales force, because this stuff, if you take anything that you heard from me talking to Ryan, all goes to this. It's not just the market stuff. It's about putting this in front of a realtor and being like, hey, look, like, not only do we have to, work deals and customers together, but we can't miss ever, not once, on compliance, and we got it down cold. Let me show you. And I promise you, you will see some jaws drop when you show this to realtors where they're like, what? And it's impressive. And it didn't have its day in the sun for the last 4 or 5 years, but take a fresh look at it, you guys, because this is the stuff that realtors are like, oh my God, great. I'm with it.
Yeah, and again, Total Expert can help support you in some of those communications out to these partners. How do you recruit new partners or show the benefit of a tool like this? And those are all things that we can help with, but you can also, build your own messaging. And we're talking about, print, social, and even some support for out in the field, things like how do I capture attendees or registrants at an open house or a lunch and learn? And again, collecting this information in a very professional, strategic way. There's registering into your terms and conditions, so now you can email and text message. It's co-branded, and these are all things that Total Expert's been doing for a long time. A lot of areas for you to build out and leverage content that's already there. But really, where the power of Total Expert is now the insight on these contacts. So now I've got more data into my relationship with this partner. Hey, Anna Realtor has shared so many leads with me, has done so much marketing with me, and here are the leads themselves. But really the power is, how do we take all of that contact data and drive a process that is beneficial for myself, the organization, and those partners? So something like an open house lead nurture campaign. How do we stay in front of these opportunities and help not only, me as a loan officer, a loan broker, but also these listing agents or these co-marketing partners, co-branded emails that go out on their behalf that are branded and specific to that lead source. And across the entire experience, from that initial touch point to things like in-process communications, what you're seeing here is Total Expert Journey Creator. And the true power of the Journey Creator is that it is intelligent automation that's always listening. So a lot of times people are pretty used to a traditional drip campaign where you send an email or you have a contact on a campaign and there's 5 to 7 touch points, and you're not looking at additional data points to drive and personalize the communication. Where what the Journey Creator allows you to do is leverage loan information. This is all built around loan data, contact data, and drive communication that's very personalized and specific to where they are. So did they open an email or click a link? Now maybe they're in the in-process campaign. We want to help with some efficiencies and drive communication based off of those milestones. But not only to the borrower, this is a great opportunity and touch point to engage maybe those loan participants that aren't co-marketing partners yet. Hey, let's reach out to a buyer seller agent on this loan and give them reason to partner with XYZ mortgage organization. Why should they work with us? What's the advantage? What can they get? Every touch point is valuable, and Julian spoke to this, giving them insight into the market, giving them insight into other pieces of valuable data that they can use. That's another part of being a good partner. So everything from lead to in process. And then probably the most impactful area that we've seen with our customers lately is in this monitoring and driving insights of your past customers back to those partners. So Total Expert is an all-in-one system for all of this data. We actually can help you monitor past customers or leads, whether it's looking for if they pulled credit with another lender, whether they have a certain rate or equity that we're tracking. All of this can trigger, again, these workflows. And I've talked a lot about email. This could be text message. This can be tasks for your loan officers to reach out. But again, what's valuable here is not only can you send an email to that past customer directly, notify the loan officer, but this could be something that you leverage and reach out directly to that co-marketing partner. Hey, your past customer that we worked with together had this insight. How do we work together to re-engage and provide that past customer with some valuable content or information?
I think can you just show this part again one more time, like these flows? I just think this part is a big deal because it's not so much the innovation is not so much on the alert about the credit pull itself. It's about the absolute immediate and granular action that you can take with your sales team if you're running this centrally, with your customer if you're the loan officer, or with your referral partner if you're the loan officer, correct? That's kind of
Yep.
how that's what these automations are all doing, which I think is the biggest deal, because credit triggers are something everyone knows, but actioning on them in real time across everyone who needs to know is special.
For sure. A huge advantage is having this all centralized in one location.
Yeah.
You getting alerts from one place and then having to track or reach out in another system, or pull a database, and now these alerts aren't as timely. It's taking that alert and having action immediately, whether it's across different channels. And another huge piece to this is, because Total Expert is integrated with your other systems, you can quickly and easily have conversion tracking on how many alerts did we get, and what does that mean in terms of applications or loans started based off of those alerts. So now you can really kind of put all the pieces together to understand the success and the ROI around these types of insights.
Seth, that was a fantastic demo, and I think a great teaser for some of our attendees on the line to learn a bit more. So I'll encourage you to reach out to the appropriate folks at Total Expert. I know we are about 5 minutes past our scheduled time, so we will cut here. Before we do, a sincere thank you to you, Julian, for joining us, a longtime friend and guide here at Total Expert. Seth, always a pleasure seeing you, and some magic there, and I think an 8-minute demo. And most of all, thank you to our viewers who've joined the Expert Solution webinar today. We'll encourage you, we do have another episode next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, which you will hear about in the follow-up email when you get a recording of this session. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, Ryan, Seth.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.